The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, wrapped in emerald silk paper with gold-foiled palm leaves dancing across the envelope. I remember because that was the day everything in my perfectly curated life started to unravel, though I didn't know it yet. I'm Chelsea, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. A thriving interior design business in Seattle, a gorgeous fiancé named Jake, and a best friend who'd been my rock since freshman year of college. That best friend was Caroline, and she was getting married in Bora Bora. "Babe, did you see this?" Jake whistled, holding up the invitation. "Caroline's really outdoing herself." I watched him from across our kitchen island, noting how his eyes lingered a moment too long on the photo tucked inside. Caroline in a flowing white dress, posed against crystal-clear waters. "Well, that's Caroline for you," I said, reaching for my coffee. "Nothing but the best." "You're not jealous she's beating us to the altar?" He smirked, but something in his tone made my stomach twist. "Please, we agreed to wait until my business expansion is complete." I walked over and kissed his cheek, catching a whiff of unfamiliar cologne. "Besides, who needs to rush?" My phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil, Caroline's face lit up my screen. "Tell me you got it," she squealed before I could say hello. "You're coming, right? You have to come. You're my maid of honor." "Of course I'm coming," I laughed. "Though I have to ask, Bora Bora? Really?" "Only the best for my best friend," she purred. "Plus, Jake mentioned once it was his dream destination." I froze. "When did Jake tell you that?" "Oh, probably at one of our dinner parties. Speaking of which, come over tonight. Pre-wedding planning emergency." Before I could respond, Jake grabbed my phone. "Caroline, the invitation is insane. We're absolutely in." Their laughter mingled through the speaker, and something primal in my chest tightened. I watched Jake's face as he chatted with her, the way his eyes crinkled, how his whole body seemed to lean toward the phone. That evening at Caroline's penthouse, she answered the door in a silk robe, champagne already flowing. "Finally!" She hugged me tight, then held me at arm's length. "God, you look tired. Wedding planning stress." "Just work," I said, following her inside. "Some of us still have to earn our keep." She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, honey, you always were the responsible one." As she poured drinks, I noticed a familiar silver frame on her shelf, a Polaroid from senior year. Caroline and me, arms linked, Jake barely visible in the background. But looking closer now, I saw something I'd missed before. Caroline's hand reaching behind her, fingers just brushing Jake's arm. "Remember that night?" she asked, following my gaze. "When Jake first transferred to our school?" "I remember you introducing us," I said carefully. She smiled, something predatory in her expression. "Did I? Funny, I remember it differently." My phone buzzed again. A text from Summer, Caroline's cousin. "Got your number from Xander. We need to talk before Bora Bora. It's about Jake." "Everything okay?" Caroline asked, too sweetly. I locked my screen. "Perfect. Just wedding details." Later that night, as I lay in bed beside Jake's sleeping form, I pulled out the Polaroid I'd slipped into my purse. In the dim light, Caroline's reach toward Jake seemed more deliberate, more possessive. I thought about her invitation, her penthouse, her perfectly orchestrated destination wedding. This trip wasn't about celebration, it was about conquest. And suddenly, with crystal clarity, I understood that Caroline had been playing a very long game. I reached for my phone and typed a response to Summer. "Tell me everything." The screen lit up instantly. "Not over text, but pack something red for the wedding. You're going to need it." I looked at Jake's peaceful face and wondered how many secrets were hidden behind it. Bora Bora was waiting, with its crystal waters and volcanic sands. But beneath that paradise, something darker was stirring, and I had 6 months to prepare for whatever Caroline had planned. Game on, best friend. Game on. Bora Bora's airport was smaller than I expected, but Caroline's welcome party was anything but. She stood among a dozen staff members, holding fresh lays and coconut cocktails, wearing a white bikini under a sheer cover-up that left little to imagination. "Chelsea!" She threw her arms around me, then immediately turned to Jake. "And there's my favorite groomsman. God, you both look so pale. We need to get you in the sun immediately." I watched as she lingered in Jake's embrace a moment too long, her hand sliding down his arm. 6 months of watching and waiting had taught me to notice these things. "The resort is breathtaking," I said, breaking their moment. "Though I'm surprised your fiancé isn't here to greet us." Caroline's smile tightened. "Richard had a last-minute business emergency. He'll be here tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Jake asked, too quickly. "That's cutting it close for the wedding. Well, more time for us to catch up." Caroline linked her arm through Jake's. "Chelsea, darling, Lucia will show you to your bungalow. Jake, you simply must see the sunset from the main bar. I'm buying you a drink." Before I could object, Lucia, a tall bridesmaid with knowing eyes, was ushering me toward a golf cart. "They seem close," Lucia commented as we pulled away. I forced a smile. Caroline's always been friendly. Lucia glanced back at them. "Very friendly. Here's your welcome package." Caroline picked everything herself. Inside the gift bag was a silk robe in bridal white, with a note. "To my dearest friend, can't wait to share everything with you. XOC." The bungalow was stunning, perched over turquoise water. I was unpacking when someone knocked. "Delivery for the maid of honor," a familiar voice called. I opened the door to find Summer, looking nothing like the Instagram photos Caroline had shown me. Instead of designer resort wear, she wore simple shorts and a tank top, her dark hair in a messy bun. "Finally," she said, stepping inside. "I've been waiting months to meet you in person." "What's going on, Summer? Your texts have been cryptic as hell." She pulled out her phone. "First, what do you know about the Lane Fletcher business partnership from 10 years ago? Jake mentioned their families had some falling out before we met. Why?" "Because that falling out involved millions in embezzled funds, and your perfect fiancé was more than just a bystander." She showed me a series of emails. "Caroline's been planning this for years." A knock interrupted us. "Chelsea," Jake called. "You won't believe the sunset view from the bar." I opened the door to find him slightly drunk, Caroline hanging on his arm. "We brought you a drink," Caroline sang, but her eyes were sharp. "Summer? What are you doing here?" "Just welcoming my favorite cousin's best friend," Summer said smoothly, "catching up on old times." Caroline's smile turned glacial. "How sweet. Though I specifically put you in the East Wing, didn't I?" "Did you? Must have gotten lost." Summer winked at me. "See you at dinner, Chelsea." After they left, I found a small note Summer had slipped into my hand. "Meet me at the beach bar at midnight. Bring your laptop. Xander's arriving tomorrow with proof." Dinner was a masterclass in subtle warfare. Caroline had seated Jake next to her, while I was placed between 2 drunk groomsmen. I watched as she touched his arm, whispered in his ear, played the perfect hostess while shooting me triumphant glances. "Need some air?" Lucia appeared beside me as I left the bathroom. "Just a headache," I said. "Interesting." She nodded toward a private beach cabana. "Caroline gets those too, especially when she's writing in her special notebook." I frowned. "What notebook?" "The one she leaves in there. Very private. Very personal." Lucia's eyes met mine. I'd hate for anyone to accidentally find it. 10 minutes later, I stood in the empty cabana, holding a leather-bound journal. On the first page, in Caroline's flowing script, Jake plus Caroline forever. The date was 2 years ago, 3 months after Jake had proposed to me. My phone buzzed with a text from Summer. "Don't react. Act normal. Tomorrow everything changes. Xander's flight lands at 9 a.m. I replaced the notebook and walked back to dinner, where Caroline was feeding Jake a piece of her dessert. She caught my eye and smiled. "Everything okay, bestie? You look pale." I smiled back, channeling every ounce of calm I possessed. Never better, just excited for tomorrow. And I was, but not for the reasons she thought. I cornered Jake at sunrise, before Caroline could orchestrate another strategic separation. He was doing his morning run along the beach, shirtless and glistening with sweat. "We need to talk," I said, blocking his path. "Can it wait? Caroline's planned this group snorkeling thing." "No, it can't wait." I pulled out my phone, showing him a photo I'd taken of Caroline's notebook. "Want to explain this?" His face went through several expressions before settling on confused innocence. "That's Caroline being Caroline. You know how intense she gets about friendships. Friendships don't usually involve secret notebooks with love declarations dated during our engagement." He grabbed my arm, pulling me behind a row of palm trees. "Lower your voice. You're being paranoid." "Am I? Because Summer," he scoffed. "Caroline's crazy cousin? The family disappointment? That's who you're getting your information from." "Actually," a voice cut in, "she's getting it from me." We turned to find Xander standing there, briefcase in hand, looking decidedly out of place in his business casual attire. "What the hell is he doing here?" Jake stepped back, showing Chelsea exactly what kind of man she's engaged to. Xander opened his briefcase. "Should we start with the offshore accounts or the fake investment portfolios?" Jake's face went white. "You can't prove anything." "Wrong." Xander pulled out a stack of papers. "Caroline's father might have buried the original scandal, but you two got sloppy. The money transfers, the secret meetings, the emails. It's not what you think," Jake interrupted, turning to me. "Baby, Caroline's father was going to ruin my family. I had to play along." "Play along?" I laughed bitterly. "By sleeping with his daughter?" His silence was answer enough. "Chelsea!" Caroline's voice rang across the beach. She was walking toward us in another tiny bikini, looking concerned. "Is everything okay? Jake, the snorkeling group is waiting." "Actually," I said loudly, "Jake was just explaining your notebook, and the money transfers, and why my investment portfolio suddenly lost half its value last month." Caroline's concern morphed into something ugly. "Summer told you. That little bitch never could keep her mouth shut." "I told her," Xander said, stepping forward, "and I've got copies of everything." "You're bluffing." But Caroline's voice shook. "The emails where you planned to seduce Jake, the bank statements, the recording of you bragging to Lucia about replacing Chelsea in every way?" He smiled. "Not bluffing." "Jake," Caroline's voice turned pleading, "tell them it's not true. Tell them about our plan." I turned to Jake. "Yes, please. Tell me about your plan." He looked between us, sweat now from more than just his run. "I can explain everything. Save it." I pulled off my engagement ring. "I'm sure you and Caroline will be very happy together. Hope the money was worth it." "Chelsea, wait." But I was already walking away. I found Summer at the breakfast buffet, picking at a fruit plate. "How'd it go?" "Exactly as expected." I sat down, hands shaking. "Tell me again why you're helping me." "Because Caroline destroyed my life first." Summer's eyes hardened. 3 years ago, she seduced my fiancé, convinced him to invest everything in one of Uncle Virgil's schemes. When it fell apart, she made sure I took the blame. Lost my job, my reputation, everything. And now we have proof. Real proof. Not just of what she did to me, but to you, to others. The question is, what do you want to do with it? My phone buzzed. A message from Lucia. "Caroline's in full meltdown mode, telling everyone you're jealous and unstable. Meeting in her bungalow in an hour to handle the situation." Another text came through, this one from Xander. "It's worse than you think. Found the original files. Need to talk. Tonight." I looked at Summer. "How many people has she hurt?" "Too many. But you're the first one with the power to stop her." I thought about the white robe in my welcome bag, Caroline's smug smiles, Jake's betrayal. "The wedding's in 2 days." "Perfect timing," Summer grinned, "because I have an idea that'll make sure this is one celebration no one ever forgets." I felt a calm settle over me, the kind that comes with absolute clarity. "Tell me everything." "First," Summer leaned forward, "we need to talk about that red dress you packed." Behind us, I could hear Caroline's voice carrying across the resort, already spinning her version of events. Let her talk. In 2 days, everyone would know the truth, and it would be absolutely unforgettable. It's a mandatory spa day, Caroline announced at breakfast, her voice carrying across the resort restaurant. All bridesmaids, no exceptions. Even you, Summer. I watched her over my coffee cup, noting how she'd positioned herself between 2 potted palms, a perfect frame for her white sundress and calculated smile. Actually, Summer started, but I cut her off with a look. Sounds perfect, I said brightly. When do we start? Caroline's eyes narrowed slightly at my easy agreement. 1 hour, and Chelsea, wear that gorgeous white robe I gave you. As soon as she left, Summer grabbed my arm. Are you crazy? She's separating us on purpose. I know. I pulled out my phone, showing her a text from Lucia. Jake's been invited to C's private bungalow while we're at spa, 2 p.m. That's not suspicious at all, Summer muttered. It's exactly what we need. I touched the small thumb drive hanging from my necklace. Time to see what's in that special bungalow of hers. The spa day was torture, Caroline directing everyone's treatments, ensuring I was always just out of earshot when she whispered to the other bridesmaids. At 1:45, I made my excuse. Food poisoning, I groaned dramatically. Must have been the seafood. Caroline's concern was Oscar-worthy. Oh no, do you need anything? Just going to lie down in my room. I clutched my stomach. Don't let me ruin everyone's day. I waited until they resumed their treatments before slipping away. The resort paths were quiet in the afternoon heat as I made my way to Caroline's private bungalow, the one she'd insisted on having separate from her fiancé's suite. Voices drifted through the trees. I ducked behind a large fern just as Jake appeared, looking nervous. Are you sure about this? He was saying. Caroline's laugh floated out. Everyone's at the spa. We have hours. They disappeared inside. I counted to 100 before moving closer, finding a hidden alcove beside the bungalow. What I saw stopped my heart. It wasn't just a room. It was a shrine. Photos covered one wall. Jake at parties, at the beach, at restaurants. Some I recognized from our own dates. Others were clearly taken without his knowledge. In the center was a large framed photo of Caroline and Jake kissing passionately. The timestamp showed my engagement party. Below the photo sat a collection of items. Jake's old college sweatshirt, which he'd claimed he'd lost. Ticket stubs from concerts we'd attended. Even a hotel key card I recognized from a weekend trip we'd taken last year. My hands shook as I took photos of everything. Next to the shrine sat a laptop, still open. I pulled out my thumb drive. Looking for something? I spun around. Lucia stood in the doorway, arms crossed. I can explain. Save it. She stepped inside, closing the door. I've been waiting for someone to finally discover this place. You knew? Caroline made me help set it up. Lucia's face twisted. Called it her manifestation corner. She's been planning this for years, the wedding, stealing Jake, ruining you. Why are you telling me this? Because last month she tried to seduce my brother. Lucia pulled out her phone. I've been gathering evidence ever since. Here, she showed me texts, photos, recordings, a digital trail of Caroline's obsession and manipulation. There's more, Lucia whispered. In her desk drawer. Letters she wrote to Jake, dating back to college. Before you even met him. I found them easily. Dozens of unsent love letters, each more unhinged than the last. In the latest ones, she detailed her plans for the wedding week, how she'd finally claim what she believed was hers. My phone buzzed. Summer sending our agreed-upon warning. Voices approached the bungalow. Quick, Lucia pushed me toward a back door. I'll distract them. I slipped out just as Caroline and Jake returned, her giggle cutting through the afternoon air. Later, in my room, I laid out everything we'd gathered. Xander's financial evidence, Summer's witness accounts, Lucia's photos, my new discoveries. My phone lit up with a message from my sister Kayla back in Seattle. Did you find what you needed? I touched the thumb drive, now full of damning evidence. There's more than one bride with a plan, I typed back. The sun was setting over Bora Bora, painting the sky blood red. Somewhere in the resort, Caroline was probably already planning tomorrow's manipulations. But for the first time since arriving, I smiled. Because now I had everything I needed to destroy her perfect wedding and her perfect life. Holy shit, Xander whispered, scrolling through the files on my thumb drive. This goes way beyond just Jake and Caroline. We were huddled in my bungalow at midnight. Me, Xander, Summer, and Lucia. The sound of waves beneath us couldn't mask the tension in the room. Look at these transactions, Xander pointed to his laptop screen. Caroline didn't just try to ruin your investments, Chelsea. She's been systematically destroying anyone she sees as competition. Competition for what? I asked. Everything. Summer leaned forward. Money, status, men, especially Jake. Remember Lisa from college, Caroline's former roommate, the one who had that mental breakdown? No breakdown, Lucia cut in. Caroline planted drugs in her gym bag, then tipped off the dean. Lisa lost her scholarship, her spot on the swim team, everything. And that's just the beginning. Xander turned the laptop toward me. Look at these emails between Caroline and her father. The messages detailed an elaborate scheme, using Jake's position at his investment firm to funnel money through fake accounts, all while setting me up to take the fall if anything went wrong. She's been planning this for years, Summer said. The destination wedding was just the final piece. Get everyone here, isolated, where she controls everything. Not everything. I pulled out my phone, showing them the photos from Caroline's shrine. We have proof now, real proof. But how do we use it? Lucia asked. Caroline's got her father's lawyers on speed dial, and tomorrow's the rehearsal dinner. The dinner? Xander's eyes lit up. That's perfect. Caroline insisted on that multimedia presentation about her and Richard's love story, right? Summer grinned. And guess who's in charge of the resort's AV system for the week? You? I asked. No, better. My girlfriend. She owes Caroline for a similar boyfriend-stealing attempt last year. A knock at the door made us all freeze. Chelsea, Jake's voice. Can we talk? I motioned everyone into the bathroom, then opened the door. It's late. I know, but... He looked awful, hair messy, eyes red. I need to explain about today. About the shrine in Caroline's room, or about the money you helped her steal from me. He paled. How did you... Does it matter? Get out, Jake. You don't understand. Caroline's father threatened my family. I had to play along, but it got out of control. She has videos, photos. She'll destroy me if I don't. If you don't what? Marry her instead of me? His silence was damning. Goodbye, Jake. After he left, the others emerged. Lucia's phone buzzed. Caroline's called an emergency breakfast for the bridal party, she read. Says she's concerned about Chelsea's mental state and wants to discuss options. Options? I laughed. Like replacing me as maid of honor? Actually, Summer smiled wickedly, this is perfect. Let her think she's winning. Meanwhile... We spent the next hour planning. Xander would handle the financial evidence. Summer's girlfriend would prepare the technical aspects. Lucia would keep Caroline distracted. What about Richard? I asked. Her fiancé still hasn't shown up. That's because he's not coming, Lucia revealed. I overheard Caroline on the phone. He found out about Jake last week and called everything off. She's been covering it up, telling everyone he's delayed by business. So tomorrow night, Summer began. We end this, I finished. All of it. My phone lit up with a text from Caroline. Can't sleep thinking about you, bestie. Breakfast at 8. We need to talk about your obvious stress levels. Don't want you ruining the photos. You know what's interesting? Xander said, still scrolling through files. Caroline once bragged to Lucia about replacing Chelsea in every way back in college. Looks like she's been rehearsing this role for a very long time. I thought about the white robe she'd given me, the way she'd been copying my mannerisms, my style. It wasn't just about stealing Jake. It was about becoming me. Well, I pulled out the red dress I'd been saving. Tomorrow she'll learn why you should never try to replace someone who's irreplaceable. Summer raised her water glass. To the rehearsal dinner from hell. We all clinked glasses, the sound mixing with the waves below. In less than 24 hours, Caroline's perfect facade would shatter, and I would be wearing red to watch it burn. The rehearsal dinner began at sunset, with Caroline holding court in a white designer dress that looked suspiciously similar to one I'd once mentioned wanting for my own wedding. She'd arranged everything perfectly. Fairy lights, floating orchids, champagne fountains. A screen hung at the front for her love story presentation. I made my entrance in the red silk dress, drawing every eye in the room. Caroline's smile flickered. "Chelsea, that's quite a bold choice for a wedding event." "Well," I smiled, "someone once told me to dress for the role you want." She caught my meaning, her fingers tightening around her champagne glass. "Where's Jake? He's supposed to give the first toast." "Right here." Jake appeared, looking nervous. He'd been avoiding my eyes all day. "Perfect." Caroline clinked her glass. "Everyone, please take your seats." I sat between Summer and Xander, watching Caroline's father Virgil work the room. He kept glancing at his phone, probably waiting for damage control calls from his lawyers. "First," Caroline stood, radiant in the candlelight, "I want to thank my amazing maid of honor, Chelsea. She's been like a sister to me." She paused dramatically. "Actually, more than a sister." Lucia pressed a button on her phone. Suddenly, everyone's devices buzzed simultaneously. Caroline continued, oblivious. "Chelsea has given me so much over the years. Including your fiancé," someone called out. The room went silent. Caroline's face froze. "I'm sorry." "These photos," another guest held up their phone, "they're from your private bungalow." Caroline's eyes snapped to mine. I raised my glass in a mock toast. "Those are private," she started, but more phones buzzed. "Are these bank statements real? Why does this email talk about replacing Chelsea completely? Where's Richard?" Caroline grabbed Jake's arm. "Tell them it's not true." But Jake was staring at his own phone, at evidence of transactions he thought were hidden. "What did you do with that money, Caroline?" "The same thing she did with mine." Summer stood up. "And Lisa's, and Rachel's, and everyone else she's destroyed over the years." "Daddy!" Caroline turned to her father. "Do something!" Virgil was already dialing his phone, but Xander cleared his throat. "I wouldn't bother. The SEC received copies of everything an hour ago." "You bitch!" Caroline lunged at me, but Lucia caught her arm. "Careful," Lucia warned. "You wouldn't want to ruin your perfect image." "Image?" I stood, my red dress blazing in the fairy lights. "Let's talk about image, Caroline. Let's talk about how you've been stalking Jake since college, about how you orchestrated our meeting, our entire friendship. That's ridiculous." "Play the video." I nodded to Summer's girlfriend in the tech booth. The screen lit up with footage from Caroline's shrine, her obsession displayed in high definition. Then came the emails, the bank statements, the recordings of her bragging about her long game. "Turn it off!" Caroline screamed, but no one moved. "In case you weren't convinced," Summer stood again. "Here's the theft affidavit your lawyers ignored, Uncle Virgil." She handed it to a woman I recognized as a journalist from the Seattle Times. The room erupted in chaos. Guests started leaving. Caroline's father was shouting into his phone. Jake looked like he might be sick. "You promised." Caroline grabbed Jake's shirt. "You promised we'd run away tonight." The silence that followed was deafening. "Caroline," Jake stepped back, "you need help." "Help?" She laughed hysterically. "I did this for us. Everything. The money, the wedding, getting rid of Chelsea. It was all for us." "There is no us," Jake said. "There never was." Caroline turned to me, her mascara running. "You think you've won? You think this changes anything? I made you, everything you have, your career, your style, Jake, it was all copied from me." "No, Caroline." I walked closer. "You copied me, and you failed at that too." She lunged again, but this time security caught her. As they led her away, she was still screaming about how she'd make everyone pay. The guests dispersed quickly, leaving behind half-empty champagne glasses and shocked whispers. Jake tried to approach me, but Xander stepped between us. "I think you've done enough," he said quietly. I watched Caroline's perfect wedding dissolve into chaos, feeling strangely empty. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice, served cold on a tropical island. Tomorrow's sunrise would bring consequences for everyone. But tonight, watching Caroline's world crumble, I finally felt free. The morning after the rehearsal dinner disaster, I found Jake waiting outside my bungalow. He looked like he hadn't slept, still wearing his clothes from last night. "5 minutes," he pleaded. "That's all I'm asking." I leaned against the doorframe. "Make it 3. "I was weak," he started. "Caroline's father threatened to expose my family's involvement in the original scandal. She used that to get close to me, and then you decided to sleep with her while being engaged to me. It wasn't like that. She had evidence, photos, recordings. She said she'd destroy everything I'd built unless I played along." "Played along?" I pulled out my phone. "Like in this video from my engagement party, because you seem pretty enthusiastic about playing along here." His face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I got caught up in her world, the money, the power. But I love you, Chelsea. We can start over." "Actually," Summer appeared behind him, "you'll be starting over with the SEC. They're very interested in those offshore accounts." Jake spun around. "You don't understand." "No, you don't understand," I cut in. "This isn't a negotiation, this is goodbye." As if on cue, shouting erupted from the main building. Caroline's voice carried across the resort. "Where is she? Where's that backstabbing bitch?" "Sounds like your other girlfriend's looking for you," Summer smirked. We watched as Caroline stormed across the beach in yesterday's dress, her father and several security guards trailing behind her. "You ruined everything," she screamed when she saw me. "This was supposed to be my perfect ending." "Perfect?" I stepped forward. "Like how you perfectly planned to steal my life, or how you perfectly embezzled money from everyone who trusted you." "I deserved it all. I deserved him." She pointed at Jake. Tell them how we were meant to be together." Jake backed away. "Caroline, stop. It's over." "Over?" She laughed manically. "Nothing's over. Daddy will fix this, won't you, Daddy? Just like you fixed everything else." But Virgil looked defeated. "The SEC is involved now, Caroline. There's nothing I can do." "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." "Yes," Lucia appeared, holding up her phone. "And the video of your meltdown last night just hit social media. Trending already." Caroline lunged for the phone, but security caught her. As they dragged her away, she kept screaming promises of revenge, her voice echoing across the paradise she'd tried to corrupt. "Chelsea," Jake tried one last time. "Please." "I have a prepared statement," I said coldly, pulling out a piece of paper. "Since you both love performances so much." The remaining guests had gathered, phones recording. I cleared my throat. "To my former fiancé and former best friend, congratulations. You've successfully proven that karma doesn't need my help. Jake, I've already transferred all shared assets back to their rightful owners, minus the money you helped Caroline steal, of course. The authorities can sort that out." Jake's face went pale. "Caroline, I'd wish you happiness, but we both know you'll never find it. Not while you're trying to live someone else's life. Enjoy your new reality. I hope deceit fills the wedding album." Security was already escorting Jake away. Apparently, the SEC worked faster than expected. Caroline was being led to a waiting car, her father following with his lawyers. "That," Summer said appreciatively, "was ice cold. I learned from the best," I replied, watching Caroline's exit. Though she never did learn from me. Lucia handed me a glass of champagne. "To the wedding that wasn't." "To karma," Summer added. "To freedom," I finished. Later, as the sun set on what should have been Caroline's wedding day, I walked alone on the beach. The waves lapped at my feet as I carried her discarded bridal bouquet, white roses she'd chosen because I once mentioned loving them. One by one, I pulled the petals free, letting them drift into the ocean. Each one felt like releasing a piece of the past, of the lies and manipulation that had shaped the last few years of my life. The final rose I kept whole, a reminder that beauty can hide thorns, and that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who claim to love you most. I tossed it into the waves, watching it float away into the darkening horizon. Behind me, paradise continued, unmarred by the drama that had unfolded on its shores. It was time to go home. The resort staff whispered as I packed my bags, their eyes following me with a mix of pity and awe. News travels fast on small islands, and by morning everyone knew. The bride was gone, the groom was in custody, and the maid of honor had orchestrated it all. "Your flight's confirmed," Summer said, lounging on my bed. "Though I still think you should stay another day. These rooms are paid for." "By Caroline's father's stolen money." I zipped my suitcase. "I'll pass." My phone buzzed, Lucia sending updates from the main hotel. Caroline had been sedated and flown home on her family's private jet. Jake was cooperating with authorities, probably hoping for a deal. The wedding guests were fleeing paradise like rats from a sinking ship. "Ms. Jenkins," a resort manager knocked softly. "There's a message for you at the front desk." At reception, they handed me a cream envelope. Expensive stationery, familiar handwriting. Inside was a single sentence. "You'll regret this. C." "Charming to the end," Xander commented, reading over my shoulder. "Though she might have trouble following through from prison." "Prison?" I raised an eyebrow. "Just got word from my contacts," he grinned. "The SEC investigation uncovered more than we expected. Wire fraud, embezzlement, blackmail. Caroline and her father are looking at serious time. And Jake turned state's evidence this morning. Smart move, considering." I crumpled Caroline's note, tossing it into a nearby orchid arrangement. "Good. Ready to go?" Summer appeared with her own bags. "You're leaving too? Please, you think I'm staying here alone?" "Besides," she smiled, "someone needs to help you rebuild your investment portfolio." "And someone needs to handle the legal fallout," Xander added. "Your interior design clients might have questions about all this." My phone rang. My sister Kayla. "Tell me you saw the video," she squealed. "You're trending. Bridesmaid, revenge is everywhere." "Great," I groaned. "Just what I needed." "No, this is perfect," Kayla insisted. 3 magazines want your story. And that red dress? People are obsessed. I don't want to be known for this." "Then be known for what comes next," Summer suggested. "Caroline tried to steal your life. Build a better one." The golf cart arrived to take us to the airport. As we drove past Caroline's private bungalow, I saw resort staff removing her shrine, taking down the evidence of her obsession piece by piece. "You know what's funny?" Lucia said, meeting us for goodbye hugs. "Caroline always talked about manifesting her perfect life. Turns out she manifested her worst nightmare instead." "Karma's like that," Summer nodded. "Sometimes it needs a little push." At the tiny airport, I stopped at the souvenir shop, buying a small glass turtle, a reminder that even paradise has its dark sides. "Last call for boarding," the attendant announced. "Wait," Xander touched my arm. "There's something you should know. The evidence we found, it cleared Summer's name completely. Her reputation, her career, everything Caroline destroyed is being restored." Summer blinked back tears. "I didn't help you for that." "I know," I hugged her. "That's why you deserved it." Boarding the plane, I took one last look at Bora Bora's perfect waters and volcanic peaks. Somewhere out there, Caroline was probably already plotting her comeback. Jake was negotiating his plea deal, and social media was dissecting every detail of the wedding that wasn't. But here's the thing about revenge. It's not about the spectacular ending. It's about what you learn along the way. Caroline had spent years trying to become me, never realizing that authenticity isn't something you can steal. "Coming?" Summer called from her seat. I settled in beside her, pulling out my laptop. Time to start designing my next project, my own life on my own terms. "You know," Xander leaned forward from the row behind us, I heard justice tastes sweeter on an island than in a courtroom. I smiled, watching paradise disappear beneath the clouds. No, justice tastes sweetest when served with truth. The plane banked east toward home, leaving behind the perfect wedding that never was. But I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I had something better than revenge. I had my life back, and this time it was absolutely, unquestionably mine.